Kia ora, and welcome to this session of Tech Bytes. I'm Craig Young, I'm the CEO of 21Jul02, and it's my pleasure to be able to host these sessions. Today we're talking to Luke Campbell. He's the CEO and founder of Vixx. He's a young entrepreneur from Christchurch, and I hope you enjoyed this session with Luke. I certainly did. Oh, thanks very much, Luke, for joining us today. It's great to see you. How's Christchurch?
Yeah, you too, man. It's not too bad down here, actually. We've got some pretty sunny weather, to be fair. I'm working from home today because my flatmate managed to get me sick. So, I'm usually in at the office, but we're having a bit of a working from home situation, I guess. You can see my co-founder, Lucy, in the background there.
Right. Hi, Lucy. Thanks for joining us. Let's just get started. Let's get straight into it. Tell us a little bit about your career to date and how you've got to where you are now.
Yeah, totally. So I guess I started Vixx a couple of years ago while studying full time at university, and it kind of came about through my interest in like entrepreneurship and startups in general. And as a result of that, I was studying kind of physics and economics at university, and decided to do this kind of elective. And the course was focused on new businesses and new ventures. And one of the kind of fundamental things that I learned through doing that course was like when you're looking at starting a new business, you should kind of find a problem that's really affecting people to solve, as opposed to kind of thinking about something that maybe just sounds really like something that's cool to work on, for example, which was kind of where I was at the time. And coincidentally, I was getting a bunch of voicemail at the same time, and I thought it was a really painful experience. And I figured, for a student who's only getting a few messages a month, and it's this frustrating, what must it be like for a real estate agent, a small business owner, or someone, the kind of people who get many every single day. Yeah. And so took that as like a serious problem, and decided to kind of give creating a business around that problem a go, and recruited my co-founder Lucy to work on it with me. And kind of, I guess that's where it all got started. I haven't really had a full-time job outside of starting Vixx, so I can't really talk about a kind of long-winded career or anything like that. But it's been a really interesting period. So we've been working on the business for almost 3 years now. But yeah.
Yeah. Did you have a technology background?
I mean, as much as like most young people do these days, I kind of got my first computer when I was like something like 7 or 8 years old. So, or I guess it wasn't mine, it was my father's, but he kind of let me just like do what I could ever imagine on it. So I was just kind of spending a lot of time on the computer, learning a lot as a result. And so that was kind of the limit of my technological background. I mean, in high school, I tried to hack the school computer network once, which kind of it went well or not so well, depending on like who you ask, I guess.
Never mind. Look, you started talking about Vixx, so tell us a little bit more about what it is, how it's set up, how it works, and then who's your target market.
Yeah, so I guess I could talk a little bit more about where we've come from, right? So we focused on solving that problem, particularly for the likes of real estate agents. Checking your voicemail messages has always been this like painful process, and everyone you ask will tell you that they hate checking their voicemail, and most people have a kind of voicemail greeting that says "Don't leave me a message," and so we kind of took the idea to solve that as, hey, we're going to build a mobile application to help people manage their messages. And we ended up actually releasing the first cross-platform mobile app to do so in the entire country, which was really exciting for us. We continued on with that business and grew it to about 10,000 users worldwide. So we kind of operating in the US, Canada, UK, Australia, and New Zealand. And that was a really massive learning experience for our team. And kind of more recently, we've expanded our business to include kind of more traditional kind of phone systems as a product as well. So what that actually means in practice is that now you can use Vixx, you can use our software to actually make and receive calls and manage phone numbers just like you would say if you had a phone number through Spark or Vodafone. The problem we're solving with this new kind of calling software is around the kind of automating the tasks that are associated with phone calls, particularly for people like lawyers and recruiters, because they, particularly in areas of law that are transactional, lawyers make a lot of calls, and the same kind of goes for recruitment as well. And as a result of that, they just spend heaps and heaps of time on all sorts of tasks that are really easy to automate from our perspective. And so we end up saving our customers in that space about an hour per staff member per week usually.
Right. Well, how many of you in Vixx have you got?
Yeah, so well, it started with just Lucy and I back in November 2018, but today kind of our team's quite a lot bigger. We've got kind of 6 full-time staff, and then a whole range of kind of part-time and casual staff, almost at about 20 now actually, which is pretty crazy. We've got one of our team members is in Adelaide, but most everyone else is based in Christchurch.
And are they all about the same age as you, like young startup entrepreneur type minded, or have you broadened your diversity?
Yeah, well, we're definitely, always on the lookout for talented people, regardless of kind of their backgrounds, their age, or whatever. But just, I guess, as a result of kind of the people we know and the kind of business itself, a majority of our team are pretty young. So most people, I think our average age is probably sitting around, 20, 22 or something like that, to be honest with you, Craig. But we'll change that over the next couple of years as we grow as a business, definitely. So. Yeah.
I was going to ask you how was it like managing older people, but that's still to come for you. So see how that goes. We're talking about, one of the things around startups and getting started, it's all very nice when you just do it on your own because you don't have to worry too much about funding, etc. But when you start to expand, you got to start looking for financing from elsewhere. So how difficult was it to get that sort of first round of extra cash so you could start paying other people to do things for you?
Yeah, so I guess when we started, we were mostly sorry about the lighting, by the way. My screen keeps going dark. I don't know why. When we started, we were mostly kind of bootstrapped. We didn't have a lot of expenses, and generally we tried to raise money through doing things like competitions and getting little grants and stuff like that. And we managed to get into a variety of like startup accelerators, which gave us quite a nice chunk of funding, especially for the time we were at. So we ended up raising about $50,000 mostly from kind of grants and competition winnings in the early days, like in 2019, which was really helpful and pivotal to our success early on. More recently, at the start of 2020, we were kind of transitioning away from university studies. We'd gotten this product out into market with thousands of users, and we were really excited about what we were able to do for our customers. And we wanted to scale the business globally. So, there was kind of an obvious requirement there for us to raise some capital. And so we set out to raise about $400,000 in February of 2020. And then, the next month, things happened that everyone are pretty well aware of, and it kind of was a bit of a thorn in our side. But we were lucky enough to announce our fundraising round in the NZ Herald, and we actually closed about $200,000 in funding in about 4 weeks, from February to basically COVID starting to kick off. And so that was an absolute ripper, right? 4 weeks, that was amazing. I'd never really raised capital before, and I was, extremely excited and glad that we were able to raise, we were able to get this kind of a reception so quickly at the stage we were at. But as a result of COVID, investors got a lot more anxious about their capital, and people were worried in general about like what is the future going to look like, and so it makes it harder to kind of look at risky opportunities and say, I can believe in this, I can be confident in this. And so, we were raising our first round of capital as first-time founders in a global, pandemic, and it was absolutely horrendous in terms of how stressful it was, and we ended up closing our fundraising round in September, and we were really lucky to get some awesome supporters on board, and we actually closed it having raised $600,000.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I was stoked, man. But I tell you what, the amount of wine I had to get through that fundraising round, I won't speak about it publicly, but it was it was a big requirement.
Yeah, well, let's talk a little bit about that. So, you're a young entrepreneur, you're 1 year out of university, you've got this business, and COVID comes along, and you're trying to lead a business. I mean, what sort of leadership things did you learn during that period? I mean, it must have been an incredibly fast learning cycle.
Yeah, I guess personally, I see myself as often, probably my one of my biggest kind of skill sets, or at least the thing that makes me a valuable member of our team, is that I'm good at handling stress for the most part. And probably some of the more important things I learned just during that period was that you've got to put your people first, and it's super important to make sure that everyone check in on them, make sure that they are doing all right and they have the things that they need so that they can perform their role. And it was a stressful and anxious time for everyone during like lockdown and this, especially the start of COVID. So there were a lot of challenges that kind of just people were often dealing with on a personal level outside of just considering business. So one of the most important things to me is being authentic with your team, making sure that they're aware that like there are serious risks, and hey, this might not all turn out like rosy, but also showing showing a sense of confidence that you believe in what you're doing, you believe in your team because they're fantastic, and everything's going to be all right as well. Being that kind of beacon of hope, I guess that's an important part of leadership as well. And so that was probably one of the bigger kind of themes that I say I would have drawn from that period of time.
As well as how to drink a lot of wine during stressful
Yeah,
periods.
yeah, man. Yeah. You got
it. Just as well we have wine at our events, right? So
yeah, exactly.
So now you've come out the back end of COVID. Wow, we're sort of mid-pandemic, I reckon, sort of worldwide. Is it still impacting the way you do your business?
Yeah. Look, I guess as a software company, right? We're quite privileged as a company that's not only a software company, but a company of mostly young people, as you kind of mentioned before. We found shifting to remote work to be not a significant challenge, and so we were lucky in that respect. And so that was a big part of not only how our business changed, but obviously it affected everyone. Not only did it affect how we work, but it also affected how how valuable our services were, right? Particularly with our new calling service, law firms all over the world, recruitment firms, basically most large businesses or even a lot of SMEs are looking at moving to more flexible, more modern kind of communication systems, including like phone systems, which include Vixx call. And as a result of that, there is an enormous opportunity in front of us, and of course all of the other kind of businesses involved in the telco sector. So I would say that it's still affecting that, and as a result, our customers are extremely excited about what we're able to provide them with, and and to be honest, we're lucky as to have that opportunity.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? I mean, we didn't talk about this, but voice is a pretty traditional market, right? It's not the new sexy stuff like WhatsApp, etc. But you sort of, by going to this new calling platform, you are starting to head up against, tools like Zoom who are trying to do calling, like Teams. I mean, Teams is going to be built into Windows 11. So do you feel like you're starting to take the big boys on and you've got a bit of a niche that you can go for? And how important is
definitely.
that you know what you're offering and niche thing?
And how it's different. Yeah. I would say that that's probably one of the most important things in terms of how our success. It's so important to know who your customers are and how they talk and what they do every day, and not know that so intimately that your product is built for them. Because if a company like Vixx was trying to compete against Microsoft directly for the same customers with the same product, we're not going to have a good time, to be frank. And so and that goes for any market. And so as a result of having a good niche, a large niche, where our product is the most well suited for our customers, we aren't really competing with them in such a direct way. But telco in general, telecommunications like video calling, voice calling, is an enormously ripe space for disruption right now. And we're seeing this with companies that are building call center software like Aircool, who just raised $120 million at a valuation of over $1 billion. Or there are many other startups that are working in this space that are doing really awesome stuff.
And do you see yourself as being one of those $120 million raises to be valued at several $1 billion?
Oh, we'll see, Craig. We're definitely super ambitious. We're a super ambitious team, right? And we think we can make a significant difference for kind of customers who fit our ideal customer profile globally. And we'll be able to serve thousands or tens or hundreds of thousands of customers really quickly because of how we've built our system. So I could see that in our future, definitely, but it just depends on, I guess, how that goes.
Well, there has been a few tech firms from the South Island just recently that got sold for significant amounts of money to overseas. So you might have that as an exit strategy. I won't ask you about that at the moment, but
sure.
I will ask you though. Do you think being in Christchurch, which is not the largest city of New Zealand, I'll just put it that way, is a help or a hindrance, or it doesn't really matter?
Honestly, I would say that if I had Christchurch NZ, the marketing team at the city council sitting next to me, they'd be telling me to shout Christchurch's praises. And to be honest, like, it's a fantastic city to live in and to work in. But frankly, I don't think it matters so much, especially not anymore, because of remote working, because of the access we now have to everyone worldwide as a result of people just being comfortable jumping on a Zoom with someone on the other side of the planet. I just don't think it matters. And I think what is really good about Christchurch is that we have a great university here with a fantastic engineering department, and so the graduates that come out of university have great skills, are ready to kind of jump into a company like Vixx or Xero or whoever, and have it's just fantastic, a fantastic talent pool in Christchurch. The living costs here are really low. My commute to work is 5 minutes.
I could go on. That.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So I travel to Auckland a lot for business, and I know how long it takes to get from the airport to the city centre in rush hour. So and one of the other things that I really love personally, and I know my team value really highly as well, is as access to nature, and being able to go on a hike and be on a trail in like a couple hours, as opposed to like half a day trip or however long it might take elsewhere. And another interesting fact about Christchurch is that we have the second largest tech industry in the country after Auckland. So although Wellington people sometimes like to disagree with that, but it's the fact. So
yeah. Hey, let's just go back to you personally again, just for a few minutes. So what about some of the learnings you've had as you've transitioned from a founder who had an idea to now a CEO pretty quickly? Have you got some tips that you learned along the way for others that might want to be in the same situation, or have you got some disasters you could actually share with us?
That's a good one. Um, I suppose probably one of the things that I really like to share with people that are interested in entrepreneurship and starting their own businesses is looking at Y Combinator as a really great example of a place that helps entrepreneurs succeed. So Y Combinator, if people that are listening are kind of unfamiliar, is this accelerator program based in San Francisco. And a couple of years ago, this isn't necessarily the case anymore. There were tens of thousands of accelerator programs globally, right? And there were only a handful of unicorn firms of companies worth over $1 billion that had gone through accelerators. There were only a handful of them. There was something like 20 or however. And out of the tens of thousands of accelerator programs globally, every single unicorn that had gone through an accelerator had gone through Y Combinator. Right. And it's because of the model that they had for teaching people how to be solid executors and good entrepreneurs is just phenomenal. And the bloody absolute fabulous thing is they put all of their content on YouTube for free, and it is a hell of a goldmine. And it's kind of a Bible from my perspective. The content on there is fantastic. But I guess from things that I think that have helped us succeed is a bias toward like making decisions quickly. And so that you can make a decision, like it's not going to be the perfect decision. Maybe it's going to be the worst possible decision, but you make the decision quickly, fail fast, and learn fast. And so being super iterative and having that kind of fast feedback cycle on the decisions you make is super important. Having a founding team that are really kind of well balanced is I think one of the things that helped us succeed massively. Like Lucy is a fantastic engineer and great at what she does, and she's really good at all of the things that I'm horrible at, and vice versa. And so that kind of specialization in our founding team was really important too.
Yeah.
From a disasters perspective, I think, to be honest, we've been pretty lucky. We've been really lucky. And I mean, things have gone wrong. So many things have gone wrong, but it's never been in a way that I've it's never been a disaster, I guess. Yeah. I mean, things go wrong all the time. You just got to pick your stuff up and keep moving.
Yeah. I did pick up in there, you're talking about executing, decision making decisions, even if they're not necessarily the right ones, and executing. I mean, that's probably key, is that it's great having a great idea. You've got to then execute it. So you may not execute it perfectly, but you still have to execute.
Yeah, massively. Because, this is something that's said often in the kind of startup world, is that like ideas are kind of meaningless, or that there's this quote, big companies don't eat small companies, fast companies like eat slow companies, and that, I think that rings true massively. If you're able to, if you plot a graph of like 1% growth per week versus 2% growth per week, it doesn't sound like a massive difference, but over the course of 2 years, the one that's growing at 2% per week is going to absolutely outstrip the other by an enormous amount. And so just speed is so important, especially in the early stage startup like ours.
Yeah. Look, we've gone longer than I normally would, so it is great. But but I still have a question for you. I want to finish up with, which is, what advice would you have for others looking to start their own business, particularly younger leaders? I mean, you are an example of that, and in the tech space, I suppose, as well. You got particular advice?
Yeah. So definitely find a team. Like a co-founder that, if you're a technical co-founder, go and find someone that talks a lot, and maybe they've got background playing heaps of strategy games like me, that's probably pretty helpful, I would say, if they're going to be like a business leader. And then if you're non-technical and you have that kind of, you're really interested in business and leadership and stuff like that, then go and find someone that is a technical founder, and do things that will help you build experience and what you're going to do, right? Like before Vixx, something that was extremely crucial to my personal development was starting a university club and leading that club for a couple of years, and you know, I learned so many leadership skills as a result of that experience that helped me for not like massively with Vixx. And then the last thing would really be kind of go and surround yourself by people who have done it before, who have kind of are a few steps ahead of you on that journey, who you can talk to and ask for advice, because that's so important. You know, I still regularly reach out to people that are, you know, those few steps ahead of us, who have started a company and maybe exited it, or are just you know, have experience that we don't. Someone that's extremely helpful for me personally is a guy named Beon from First AML. I catch up with him all the time, and he gives us fantastic advice. And you know, people, especially in New Zealand, are often willing to sit down with you for 15-30 minutes and have a quick chat, because it's just, I guess, what Kiwis are like. So go and do that.
Yeah. Hey, thanks so much, Luke. Particularly since you're not overly too well either. But how can people connect with you if they want to chat to you some more? What's the best way?
Oh, probably LinkedIn, to be honest. I love LinkedIn. Absolutely, spend, you know, heaps of time on there. So if you wanna have a chat, just reach out to me on LinkedIn, and I'll respond. So that would be great.
Yeah. So thank you so much for giving up your time, Luke, and sharing some really cool stuff. We're just to let people know that. If you want to see this again, it'll be on our YouTube channel over the weekend, and we'll be sharing it, obviously. And we'll get you to share it on your LinkedIn channel as well, Luke, so people can follow you. We're also on, and we're also, we turn it into an audio podcast on Apple, Google, and we're now on Spotify. So Tech Bytes will be on Spotify next week as well. So we're on every platform you can think of. So once again, Luke, thanks.
Awesome.
And go and rest and get better, mate.
Cheers. Hey, thanks for having me, Craig. It was good to see you.
Mati wa.
Mati wa.